program called Help to Thrive. I'm going to put links in the chat as we go through the training today. And that was aimed at reaching more operators and becoming bookable. And I know we had great success with that, and that's why we've been given some additional funding, this time to focus on what's core to you, which is the domestic tourism markets. There will be more courses coming. We'll explain more of that at the end of today's session. Today's session is all about helping Cotswold businesses and market themselves. And so I'm delighted to welcome, you've got two trainers today, so two for the price of one. Chris Brant from Unmissable England, and a local sort of Cotswolds business and also counsellor, along with Sean Murray from the retail practice, who is a brand and growth strategist with over 30 years experience, and again is a local to the Cotswolds and has that boutique flavour within his company. So perfect for you as small businesses. So I'm going to go on mute and hand over immediately now to Chris and Sean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally, and thank you for the intro. Nice to have. Good morning. My name is Chris Brant. As Sally says, I'm the founder and director of Unmissable England. We've been running for about 5 years now. It's all about developing new products, especially around activities and experiences. My background's very much in sustainable tourism, in marketing and communications. And some of you I've met on previous workshops and projects across the Cotswolds. So it's good to see some familiar faces on the workshop today, and also some new faces as well. I'm no stranger to the Cotswolds. I used to work for the Cotswolds Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, the A&B, now known as the National Landscape, of course. I'm also a Cotswold board member on the National Landscape as well. I live in North Oxfordshire, just on the very north part of that National Landscape as well. And I'm really pleased to be one of the presenters today. And your other presenter is Sean.
Hello, everyone. This is me. Sean Murray. I'm founder of the retail practice. As Sally said, the practice, it's a boutique communication agency and brand building agency that I founded in 2010. So finally took the step to create my own small business after working in client side for quite a few years. We essentially help businesses of all sizes develop and grow, and create a unique place in their particular markets. We both work with startups and scale-ups internationally, mainly in Europe as well as the UK. And as Chris said, I'm originally from Oxfordshire, actually from Bicester, so just outside the Cotswolds, of course. Now live in North Oxfordshire in a lovely village called Roxton, again on the edge of the Cotswolds, but know it from my childhood and know it well now from having many days out there. So very pleased to be hopefully sharing some insights and knowledge that will help you guys thrive in your businesses.
So this is what we're looking at in today's workshop. Obviously, it's all about how we want to help you to market your businesses. And we've got a range of different types of businesses on the call today. So it's really great to have a good mixture. So we're hoping that you will take something away, obviously lots away from this session. But we've managed to develop a training session that will suit many different types of businesses as well. So we're going to look at the workshop. We'll look at actually how to sharpen your messaging. As we know in marketing, it's really important about how you deliver and getting the right messages. Really helping you to improve your visibility, whether that's online or in physical situations. We're looking at your audiences and your segmentation to make sure you're getting the right audiences. Our workshop, if you've ever joined any of my workshops before, you'll know there's always practical tools and takeaways, and we've got many of them throughout the next half an hour and a half, should I say. And also we've got lots of case studies, some real examples as well, and lots of actions you can take away. So lots to get going with. We've also got some activities for you to do as well. So it's not all just about listening to Sean and I, it's also some practical work that you can do during the webinar this morning. So this is what we hope you will take away and the various outcomes in what you will learn today. So we want you to understand the various different market segmentation and alignment, and we want you to understand what that means and why it matters to your business or your organization. We want to help you define your audience as well, so you actually have that that knowledge, but that becomes really valuable to your business as well. We want to help you with an audit and improve your own content online. So whether that's your website, your social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, etc. So we really want to help you with that. We also want to help you avoid any common marketing mistakes. Now, we all appreciate that many of us on this call, not all, but many, are small businesses, and sometimes really micro businesses, and we're doing everything. We're changing the beds, we're cooking the breakfast in the morning, and we're doing all the marketing and the social media, etc. So today's workshop is about how you avoid making any marketing mishaps or mistakes and use that marketing time really wisely. And we also want to help you prepare for the up and coming sessions as well, because today is one of a series of webinars where we look actually at targeted messaging and targeted campaigns going forward in our future workshops.
I was thinking a really good place to start with this is just to emphasize that this workshop fundamentally is about marketing in its widest sense and in its true sense. And some of you will be familiar with this, some may not, but there is often some confusion between marketing and branding and marketing and advertising. And in some ways, branding and advertising are subsets of marketing. Marketing is really everything to do with your business in terms of what you offer to who, in which locations and which channels, and advertising is then how you reach those people. So this slide is really just here to emphasize when we talk about marketing, we're really talking about your business as a whole, and what place it occupies in the consumer's mind, and their place in the market too.
So what is market alignment, and why does market alignment matter to you and your business? Well, it's about matching what you offer and what the audience that you want. So I've worked with many different types of businesses across the country in my career so far, and I often hear that, oh, we want to get everybody into our hotel, we want to get everybody into our restaurant or our attraction. And I understand that, and we all understand that, but actually aligning to the market that you are targeting is really important to get that right from the very beginning. So again, appreciate we're all working really hard on various different things within our businesses, but actually spending this really important time to look at how the market is aligned will really help you going forward. So it's about being clear, focus, and relevant. So it's not about we want to get everyone. We really want to target the various different customers and different audiences as well. So that will help you in the long time. So think about who you're trying to align your offer, your business, what your customers need, and think about how that you can make that easier, not just for your customers to find you, but also for your business.
So in terms of really what works and what doesn't, as Chris said, really aligning the messaging and imagery with customer needs, genuine customer needs. Testimonials, really powerful. Examples presented on your website, and any promotions and offers that prove the relevance to your target audience. Clear and consistent storytelling. Storytelling is the biggest buzzword in marketing, I think, for the last 10 years. But when it's authentic and genuine, can really resonate with customers, even if they're short stories. Offers that feel tailored and not generic. That's for me. That's my offer. They've really understood my needs and my wants. And in general, as I said, marketing that feels authentic and also consistent. What doesn't tend to work is generic language, like it's great for everyone. There's no real evidence that you're right for that certain audience. You're not hitting the notes that will resonate with that particular audience's wants, values, and desires. Images and copy that don't connect, and mixed messaging across channels. Your website saying one thing, your social something else, an email even something different. And it really just feels unfocused. So I guess if there's one thing to take away from this page, is it be focused and be authentic and be really targeted on your audience.
So here are the benefits of getting that audience right from the very beginning and having that really focused in your communications plan, your marketing plan, or simply in your head. Because you're going to generate more bookings. That's why the reason why we're here this morning, but also why to align to that audience as well. So that higher conversion, that's what the target is. That's what you're aiming for, that benefit. Greater customer satisfaction, as Sean said, and those positive reviews. We know how important online reviews are on the multiple different platforms like TripAdvisor and Google. You want to ensure that you stay at that high standard of delivery, so actually having that customer satisfaction, because you know you're getting the right customers in at the right time as well, and the ability to charge the fair prices that you have actually come up with in your business plan, and actually enabling that to target at the customers that you think that you are going to target and actually bring into your business. And when you put that all together, we see more and more repeat visits, and that's really good. Especially from a more of a local, regional, and domestic audience, or international, coming back to your organisations because they've been to you and they've had a fantastic time because you've got the alignment right from the very beginning.
And very topical to today. I'm actually in London today, but I'm sure the weather in the Cotswolds is pretty similar. Working with the seasons. This is, something in some ways is peculiar to Northern Europe and the UK in the sense they are very changeable. We know this year we've gone from extreme heat waves to what's very wet weather now. Let's lean into that and work with it. And so, demand will change on the seasons, but use it to your advantage. And then within that, of course, you've got the different profiles of customers and different needs in those seasons. And do think of the year in a seasonal way. If I draw on my experience of working for Tesco for 7 years, it might not seem it to outside customers, but we spent a lot of time what we called being in the mindset of the customer at that point of view, that particular point in time in the calendar. So when we were planning Easter, what was it that were in people's heads? What were the dynamics going on? So being in the seasons, we can use that to our advantage in the UK. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Sean. I was about to say, Sean, you're one of the people that puts mince pies in Tesco's in August, aren't you? So we have.
Sadly, we had to think of Christmas in July. Yeah, so that was one of my events where we'd get all the press and everyone else into various locations and tasting food and wining and dining people. Yeah.
Often it is obviously that thinking ahead, and obviously our big corporate and commercial companies in the country and around the world do this really well, but it really is important to think ahead. So often in tourism, we get to December and you start seeing a wintry shot of what it looks like. Well, as it says on the slide there, think 3, 4, 5 months ahead and start your campaign early to get into that season with that lead-in time.
And a lovely final anecdote on that is, I think my team, when in my early days in Tesco, we were called in why we hadn't nailed Christmas yet, why it hadn't been sorted in February. And my boss leaned in and said, it happens the same time every year. It doesn't change. So in other words, the point being, you can plan ahead with certainty on many, many event-driven things. So that stayed with me the rest of my career. And on this slide really was just also then weaving in the different timeframes that typically different groups use to book ahead. I won't walk you through all the detail. The theme that struck me when we did the research on this is the smaller the group and the less travel, etc. involved, the less time is done in planning. And the more involved the trip and more people there are, the longer people need to plan the activity or whatever it is. So that kind of makes sense. And I think it's useful because obviously if you're looking ahead and maybe you're anticipating a quiet period or you need more bookings, then you can possibly target the people who have the shortest lead times as well. And again, just being in the mindset of the customer. So these are aggregated numbers. Not everyone fits neatly into this, but this is generally the type of timeframes for different groups of people.
Absolutely, and I just don't mind me, Sean, coming in. The international visitor there at the bottom there, 3 to 6 months, sometimes up to 9 months. What we tend to find is that the further away from a destination you are, the longer lead-in time. That's why, you know, North Americans will book, you know, almost a year in advance. I mean, I've got an accommodation myself. And you know, getting bookings from Americans, you know, for July and August next year came in July, you know, this year. So that's often the case. So and that's another good reason to sometimes target various different groups if you're a small business, because you've got that longer lead-in time, and you've also got that you know those bookings are coming in because you've got that consistent flow because you're targeting those different audiences. So how booking times shift. So the shorter lead-in times, more travellers are booking within those kind of 8 weeks. That tends to be more for domestic breaks. None of this is exclusive, of course, but it's just kind of from our own research and from our own experience. Travellers tend to be more domestic, so that might come from across the southwest or the southeast or further afield across the UK. Last minute growth tends to be that kind of very lastminute.com approach, so under 2 weeks bookings, and that can be in shoulder or off-season periods as well, using the more traditional kind of method there. But we know it as the Cotswolds, you know, as a really well-known popular destination, you know, we don't tend to have some of those kind of traditional kind of shoulder months and off-season, especially when we talk about sustainable tourism. You know, we look at extending the season throughout the year. Yes, you'll have high points and lower points, but also think about it having that offer throughout the year. And that confidence effect. So when travel confidence is high, you'll get those early bird bookings and booking returns as well, which is a really nice incentive to have as well. And the early bird peaks are often appear around January for spring and summer, so as I said, September. So you can actually, again, as Sean was saying, focus on those seasons, and actually by working with those seasons and offering incentives like those peaks, that's early bird options, that's really an attractive offer. So the takeaway from this part is to be ready for both planned and spontaneous bookers, and plan that campaign early, and keep ahead of yourself, of those bookings that are coming in, and always be flexible.
So really still on the theme of seasons, make it your strength. Create reasons to visit all year. And sometimes you might need to create your own little events in your own particular market. So certainly my approach to when we help our clients plan their marketing calendars is to think you've got some rocks in your calendar that are there fixed, you know, holidays, half terms, Easter, seasonal, Christmas. But then you might see some gaps in your own particular market and think, you know what, there hasn't been anything particularly of interest for a while. We might need to create something for ourselves. Certainly adding value added extras rather than discounting is where I think many businesses want to be. It doesn't erode your margins and your profitability. and it protects your business model as well. And then refresh your images as well. Make sure you're seasonally relevant. I actually had a fashion client recently in Denmark who in March still had winter imagery on their website, which was, just a basic error, but it's surprising how many people don't refresh all of the imagery, particularly on a website. Less so in email marketing or social, because that's much more in the moment. So do pay attention to all of those seasonality changes.
Yeah, Sean, I always think about it like the holiday brochures coming out after Christmas, or kind of in the new year, and everybody going for the holiday pictures and hoping for that summer and all those kind of things, aren't they, to kind of get away from the season that they're in as well. So kind of thinking ahead.
Yeah. So, if we begin to think then about what we might term off season, again, using this as a positive, being more creative with language. We're just been playing with some ideas ourselves this week, but the season that might seem off season, why not turning it into the secret season, making it seem more intriguing and more curious and being more playful with it. And we just go through another couple of examples, I think. Early spring awakening. I think we all know that feeling when you walk out and you see the daffodils for the first time, and my God, your mood lifts just by seeing it. Tapping into all of that, I think, is, again, playing into the seasons and being in the mindset of the customer or your potential visitor. There's a few more golden days, autumn. I think last few weeks I've noticed the leaves changing on the trees, and again it just makes you think, oh, do you know what, I'd like to be sitting maybe outside by a fire in a pub or something right now. It's all of that, being in the moment, being in the season. And in general, when we're thinking about how people plan their trips, events, getaways, whatever, there's a fairly well proven set of steps that people go through. Not everyone goes through every step every time, and sometimes you'll speed through them fairly quickly. However, it's a useful framework to think about, because often people start with inspiration. They want ideas, and then they're looking, and we're all increasingly, obviously today we look online. Before, I'm old enough to remember going to a travel agent when I was younger, getting loads of brochures, so, or whatever. So, but today that inspiration comes from many sources. So you're then discovering, and then you start to get a little bit more serious. You're starting to research stuff seriously, evaluate things, maybe start to thinking about costs and travel times and all of those things. Have they got, are they really dog friendly? What do the reviews say and all of that? And then you start to make the decision and you purchase. So all of that's going on in the background. For some people, they'll turn that into a job. For other people, they skip through that fairly quickly. And then, of course, they have the actual experience and use the product or the service that you're offering. And then, hopefully, they'll be sharing and positively advocating about their experience. I think generally what I hear from small businesses in particular, it's quite hard to get positive reviews. Not that people didn't have a good experience, it's people are more inclined to leave a negative one. But there are tricks you can do to encourage that. And then you get in the virtuous loop of loyalty and repeat. And it might not even be a repeat by them. It could be them saying to their extended family or friends, oh God, I had this great experience in Cirencester or wherever, you must go. And that's this virtuous feedback loop. So really thinking of it in that way leads to the next slide, really, which is, if you just skip on, Chris.
Yeah, so slight delay on the
slide. Okay. Where we've given some examples of the touch points along that journey. It's not all. In some ways, all of the touch points can play a role, but in inspiration, you are talking about social media and PR content and so on. So I think it's a useful slide to remember when you're thinking about that. What mindset is a customer in at that point in the journey? I'm not sure if Chris, you wanted to add anything to this one.
Yeah, just first of all, just mention, should have said at the start, all these slides will be shared with you from Sally. Sally will be sharing these, so don't worry, you don't need to be drawing these diagrams and copying them down. You're more than welcome to do that. But I think this is really important. The last two slides have been really important, because how often do we have the time to just sit back and think about the approach that we want to take in our marketing, how we want to communicate, but actually having this practical slide of getting that all right through the different 7 stages. So as Sean said, just to elaborate a little bit further, this inspiration. We all sit back, and whether it's an advert on television, on social media, in a magazine, we want to be there. We want to imagine ourselves in that place, doing that thing, having that cup of tea, that cocktail, staying in that room, those kind of things. Social media makes that really possible these days, to have that content global. So it's not just local anymore, it's global audiences, and you can be doing that on your website as well, through traditional advertising, all the different marketing channels as well. So you're given that opportunity at number 2 to really discover OTAs, online travel agents, the Airbnbs, Booking.com, TripAdvisors, etc. They really do give you that exposure to a global various platforms. So we know that international guests will often trust, things like Viator, which is TripAdvisor in America, or Airbnb Experiences, or Booking.com, Expedia, all those different sites. The further you are from a destination, you will tend to book through an OTA, not exclusively. You'll do a lot of research on destination websites, and you will do, kind of looking at the different reviews and those kind of things. So it's really important to have a good mix of how people find you through that, your own website, working with Cotswolds.com, of course, and working with online travel agents where necessary as well. And then moving on to number 3, looking at research. So your customer's going to be checking out your blogs, your news, what's new. They're going to be checking out your reviews, of course, whether that's through Google or TripAdvisor, etc. They're going to be checking in to make sure they're going to make that decision or not to book your products. So number 4, they've made their mind up, they're coming. They've decided, and they are now actually working out, yes, I can afford it, I can come, I'm available, this is what I'm going to do. They're going to start planning in their travel, they've booked their travel, and they're going to book your accommodation, your attraction, or your activity, etc. And then number 5, they're here. They're in destination. They're in the Cotswolds. They're having a fantastic experience, whatever they might have booked. And that's a really important time to check in with your guests. So that's where you want to deliver excellent customer service, with your guests, to ensure they have the best experience possible, because that is then going to hopefully share the experience with many other people. So we know, not just from review sites, but also through social media, through Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, people are going to be sharing content and telling others what a great experience they've had staying or visiting in the Cotswolds with you and your business as well. And there's an opportunity at the end of this to bring those customers back. So incentives, loyalty schemes, really important. Sean mentioned Tesco's earlier on. They've been doing it 20, 30 years, the Tesco Club Card. Yeah. That's obviously a big commercial thing, but actually it's what a lot of businesses do. It's kind of that loyalty scheme, especially for that regional domestic audience, which we do get in the Cotswolds often. People traveling from other parts of the Cotswolds, from around our counties as well. So thinking about, especially in the quieter times, offering that incentive, that campaign, that loyalty to bring people back as well. And obviously, you want to repeat this over and over again, and just having that thought of how your customer makes their decision when booking whatever your product might be. So when we look at who you're trying to attract, we've actually focused on 4 audience types across the Cotswolds, because in this mini kind of webinar sessions we've got planned for you over the next month or so, we want to really target on these different audiences, because we know these are the audiences that come to the Cotswolds, but we also want to make sure we're offering them the right products at the right time as well, and that you are reaching those audiences in the most ideal way. So those audiences are families. So those families want to come here, they want to create special memories, they will want a mixture of different types of accommodation, they want different types of activities and different bookable experiences as well. We want dog owners as well as dogs, but they are looking for, you know, the walks, the cozy pub, lunch and dinner stops. They want some comfort as well as being out in the great outdoors as well. The couples market, we've touched on it earlier on about the pre-nesters and the empty nesters. So these are the people without children that are coming to the Cotswolds. They are looking for that sense of escape, sometimes looking for some romance. Romance isn't just about the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. It happens all through the year. So actually getting in that mindset and thinking, actually, you know, my accommodation, my experience, my activity, my restaurant, you know, it really lends itself to the couples market. Then actually we're going to be spending some more focused time on all of these different audiences. And the last one is the walkers and cyclists, and those accessing our great outdoors of the Cotswolds. It's the largest national landscape in the country. We are, you know, we have a plethora of long distance walks. I think it's over 3,000 miles of public rights of way and bridleways just across the national landscape. And obviously the Cotswolds is much bigger than just the national landscape as well. So it really is a destination for walkers and cyclists as well. So they're looking for those different walks. They're also looking for those amenities along the walk before and after as well. And we've got local people coming in for the days out and trips as well. But as I said, we're going to be spending more time on those different audiences in special webinars later on in the month. But we're going to take you through a little bit more detail as well in each of the different categories. So we mentioned about actually tailoring offers and your messaging to your various audiences. And you don't have to obviously just have one audience, but you do need to kind of be really focused within your messaging and your content as well. So mentioned earlier on, looking at the kind of couples, but the families, and think about the life stages as well. But I'm going to hand over to Sean to take you through the rest of this slide.
Yeah, and in some ways, this again plays into being in the minds of your audiences. And Chris mentioned Tesco Clubcard, they're 30 years old, I think, and it was there setting it up. And one of the early insights that drove a huge change in the organization was understanding the huge spending shifts that happen in key life stages, which is when people leave home and set up on their own, when they then start to have a serious relationship, when they then cohabit or get married, when they then have children and then become empty nesters, and then as people reach retirement. The spending shifts are most significant then. And I think it's true in certain industries, particularly in my main industry, which is fashion and home. And in fashion, the over 50s have been really poorly served. So again, a lot of brands are now targeting empty nesters and people who were born in the late 60s and 70s now. And so really understanding those life stages can help you target audience as well. And also potentially, depending on what your product or service or business is, really understand actually, I'm really going to focus on that group because they fit with what we're doing and what we offer.
So I think we've got a quick exercise for you to do now. So this is where you get your thinking caps on. So we're looking at the audience mapping for your business. We're going to just take a pause and we want you to choose one or two audiences that you want to grow. This is what you want to grow and target on. So we want you to write down 3 words that describe what they care about the most. So your 3 different audience, like 1 or 2 different audiences, or 3 actually, there's 3 on there. And the two audiences and 3 words that describe what each of those audiences care about. So we want you to have that in the front of your mind when reviewing your marketing. That's the aim of this slide. Sean, I don't know if you want to add a little bit more about this task we have for our participants.
No, I think that's it. As you said, it's really, designed to get you to think about who it is you would like to target, and the motivations that they have.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of time just to have a ponder and have a think about 1 or 2 different audiences and what you want to grow, and just those describe in 3 words what they care most about. And if anybody wants to, they can. You don't have to, but if you want to share that in the chat, we've got Sally on the chat desk. So it'd be good to see some of them coming through. You don't have to, but if you want to share what one of the audiences are and what those 3 words are, that's always good to see some of that coming in. So do pop that on chat.
Thanks, Chris. I'll keep you updated. We do have 2 questions that have come in as well so far. Okay. So I don't know whether you want me to save those to the end.
We could take them now if Sean, you're happy to as well.
I'm happy to take them as we go.
To give people a bit more time to think. So Kate from Frat Squirrel was asking, what tricks do you suggest to get good reviews, please? And I think a few others liked that question as well. So another comment around the reviews, it was, we're interested in this too. We've had a couple of businesses and sometimes we have a couple of businesses and some never get any reviews. We've tried direct emailing and incentives. So basically how to get good and quality reviews.
Okay, I'll start. So I would say, I always say in marketing, people like people. If you've been on my workshops before, I say that a lot. So it's about the human contact. And most of us are small businesses, so we have that time to build that relationship with our customers from the day, well, even before they book, through our socials and our website. We want to connect. We mentioned about storytelling. We want to tell your story through your marketing, get them to book, and then it's that human contact that really can help positive reviews. So you build that relationship between you and the guest, the customer. You grow that relationship through their stay, their visit, and you offer, excellent customer service, a good product. And often it's the connectivity, it's that building the relationship. And even if sometimes if people have not had so much of a good experience on some occasions, because that you've built up that rapport between the customer, that strong connection, they're more likely just to give you a better review and maybe not highlight online some of the things that they might have taken away, and they might give that to you more in a private feedback session or something like that, or in a private email. So I think building that relationship with the customer is really important. Reviews, it's what people take away. Whether you go to a restaurant and the person serving you behind the bar gives you eye contact, that whole experience, that welcome. I stayed in a hotel in Southampton recently, and I was working down there, won't name the hotel chain. The whole time of check-in, I had no eye contact, nothing from the person behind the desk when booking. They asked me a few questions, did I have a good trip, but there was absolutely no eye contact. So building that human contact with your guests should, and hopefully, and from my own experience, really help get those good reviews. On the second question about not getting reviews, it's all about the review systems that you use. So, online travel agents will have that built-in function, so you don't have to email guests. If you're emailing guests, it's very consuming to do that approach. But if guests are using online travel agents, like Airbnb, TripAdvisor, etc., in some cases, they're almost forced to leave you a review and provide you private feedback as well. So actually have a think about the different systems that you're using, the different booking tools, the channel managers and stuff like that to actually make your product bookable. That will give you those review platforms and those links to those platforms as well. Sean, I didn't know if you've had anything to elaborate on.
I think your point around that personal experience then lends itself to how you ask for those reviews. So while you're right, Chris, sending the email saying please leave us a review can be time consuming. I was reminded when you said that yesterday, I got one from Bloom and Wild, who are hardly small, but they're growing, the flower delivery people, if you don't know them. And it, hi, Sean, I wanted to say a really personal thank you for your first order with us. Now, I'm presuming this is a generic email, but it felt incredibly personal from Kirsty, who's head of customer relations, and given me a link, and it was so personal. I actually felt I didn't want to let her down. So the experience was fine. It was what it was, flowers in a box through the letterbox, but it was so nicely written and personal that I will leave them a good review. So I think, don't just go through the motions of we sent them an email with a link. Make it really personal, obviously in an authentic way. And even if there's something you can bring into that, in this case, they've recognised it's my first order with them, that in itself may added to that experience for me. So I think it just generally underlines that the power of personalisation, whether that's in the experience itself or the follow-up communication.
Absolutely, especially as we live in such a digital age. Human contact is so important, especially in tourism, hospitality. It is crucial. It's the bread and butter of what we all do. Sally, is there any responses that come in?
There's lots of responses come in. We have got another question around photos, but I've put the answer to that in the chat, and we'll pick up that if we've got time later on, because it's quite complex, GDPR on photos and permissions. So we've got suggestions, couples and dog owners, pet friendly, cozy, quality, walkers, activity and discovering, something new, exploring an area in a different way. Dog owners, again, words of safety, how to welcome, where they can visit with a dog, families, safety, multi-generational interest, which is definitely on the sort of trending upwards, and ease of use, and then corporate groups, creative activity, benefits to nature, storytelling and team building. So definitely lots of you out there sort of doing the activity, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks, Sally. And thank you for taking part. It's just good to use these webinar sessions just to spend a bit of time on looking at who you're targeting, but also those descriptive words as well of what's important to them. Our next activity we're going to spend 5 minutes on is actually looking at your own website. How often do we have the time, to actually just sit back and look at our own websites and actually give them a bit of an audit? So in this kind of self-assessment of your website, we've got a few questions that we want you to go to your website. If you haven't got a website, then you might have a social Facebook page, and you can do this there as well. But the same approach applies. So can you tell in 5 seconds who this is for? Who is your business for? Who's your product for? Are the images relevant to the audiences that you've just been talking about there? Are the products easy to find and book? Is there a nice big book now button somewhere that's visible? Is there at least one review or a case study or a story about some of your guests and your customers? And finally, is there a clear call to action? So it's kind of similar to the one about booking, but what do you want your guests to do? You want them to call you? You want them to just drop in? You want them to book online? So have a think. Look at your site. You can do it through your desktop if you've got a computer in front of you, or obviously you can do it on your phone or tablet. And have a look and just kind of pretend you don't know the business and just try and answer those 5 different questions. Sean, I don't know if you do this quite often with your businesses in retail and hospitality, don't you?
Yeah, and the key question we ask clients and the people we work with is, what one thing do you want the audience to think or do as a result of seeing whatever it is you're putting in front of them? And if I'm with a group of people around a table, I'll probably get 10 different answers, which is then leads to some difficult conversations, or creative but good conversations. So I think it's a really useful mindset to be in. Now, of course, something like a website will have multiple objectives depending where you are in the website journey. But nevertheless, I think, it's a good question to ask yourself. What do I want someone to think or do as a result of seeing this social post, this email, this homepage or whatever?
Yeah, and as it says on the screen there, is your digital shop window. And you imagine walking past a shop window, especially when retail, when the olden days when that shop window was the shop window, and seeing what was on sale, what's available now, what's new, those kind of things, those different messages is all in that shop window, isn't it?
Well, it's a good analogy, Chris, because that's kind of where I started with shop windows. So, and
Yeah.
if you think today you could have a shop window where it's got everything in, you're trying to sell, and you've got every single product in the store in the window, and you've got everything's priced, and you've got promotions going on and loyalty program. Or you could take the approach that, say, someone like Zara takes, which is they just make the window look beautiful and amazing, and you just think, you know what, that store looks great, I'm going to go and have a look. So there are different approaches, and that's the same in digital today. You don't necessarily have to do everything depending on what your objective is, and what role you play for your customers. Again, a lot of work we're doing at the moment with brands is not just understanding what you do, but the role you play in your customers' lives, how they see you, what they want from you. And that can be, for some brands in my own industry, retail, it can be just cheap, cheerful, and convenient. That's fine. That's fine. For, and then some businesses will do very well. But in the type of businesses you're in, clearly the majority, it's much more about emotion and aspiration. And that then ties back to how you communicate.
Yeah, and often the use of, as I said earlier on, people having imagery of people doing the things that they're imagining to do, if that makes sense. So they're on holiday, it's the classic holiday brochure photograph, isn't it? And the kind of I want to experience what they look like me, they're kind of similar age, what have you. They've got a family, they've got a dog. I'm already there. I'm booking my holiday now because I'm actually seeing something that represents what I want to do.
Chris, we've got a question in from Rob who says on the website, my main target is North Americans actually, but not his only target. Should he use American spelling where it differs from English on the website?
No,
interesting one.
Interesting one. I would say, we're in England, we're in the UK. Let's use English.
I would agree.
That's what they expect. You can really play on this, though. I mean, I'm on unmissableengland.com. We've got a new website coming, and actually, I'm really, because we're focused on North American bookings international. And we're playing on the very fancy kind of things, so like fancy a cup of tea and all those different things that they kind of say when they're here. And I can't think of them right at the top of my head now, but actually using language like that because the customer that we're trying to get is that kind of empty nester, and they want some of those traditional elements in their experience when they're coming to England as well. So you can play on language as well if that's really a target audience, but I wouldn't actually change the actual language throughout your website and comms. But good question.
And I'd also echo that from a Visit Britain perspective, that their website is traditional English. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. So this is an exercise you can continue doing, obviously, and it's good to do it often as well. Just a step back. We've been talking about working with the seasons. So your content, your imagery, all those kind of things are going to change as well, and that's really important to change your website, but also your socials as well, and keep it different at different times of the year and that lead in time as well. But the function of actually having that clear call to action, that book now button or come and visit us, this is how you find us, all those different things, and the reviews is really important to have on your digital shop window, as we say. So just taking you through your homepage, and what matters really the most to you is you're trying to tell your audience that yes, this is for you. We are for you. We understand you, we know you, and we want you to come and stay and visit. That's what you're trying to get across. So clear headlines, really relatable visuals, authentic information about your audience as well. As smaller businesses, you can be that real authentic business in the Cotswolds. That's a really unique selling point. Commercial companies, big hotel chains, etc., big restaurants chains, they always want to try and appear to be authentic. You are authentic, so you don't have to play at it, but you do need to show that you are, and you need to tell that story to your audience as well. So actually show them what you understand about that audience, show them how confident that you have what they need as well, and they can then find what they need from you. So keep it simple, be focused, and really be welcoming as well. It sounds really straightforward, and yeah, of course, it's tourism, of course we're going to be welcoming, but actually using the word welcome and all those kind of things are really just simple things just to talk to your audience. John, I don't know if you had anything to extend on that.
No, that bit above the above the fold that it used to be called in traditional media, that first impression is everything. And we come on to talk about mobile in a minute as well, and how important that is. But yeah, 100%. Yeah. So most of you will know this, but I'm still surprised by how many large organizations don't have websites that are mobile first. In any industry now, most visits to a website are via a mobile device. Tablets, as you can see, have died. And in these stats are an aggregate of your own industries. So yeah, just the majority people will view you on a mobile phone. So I find myself doing it where I'm checking a new website we're building for someone. I'll be on my laptop, and then I think, oh, hang on a minute, because go back onto my mobile and start taking a look there. So really, really important, whether you're doing it yourself via one of the website building publishing platforms like the various ones out there like GoDaddy, or someone's doing it for you, make sure it is optimized for mobile really well.
Yeah, definitely. It's just how people book now, and it's just at ease, isn't it? So definitely.
Yeah.
So we wanted to spend a little bit of time now looking at the Cotswolds brand. Now, I work all across the country in really well-known areas and less well-known areas, and my messaging is always the same. It's to sell and bring people to that destination, to that place. But what the Cotswolds has is such a gift. It has a really strong brand. People, in America and elsewhere around the world, they know the Cotswolds. They know the name. They might not know where exactly it is, and they might think it's in London, etc. But they know the quality. The Cotswolds means quality. They know it means authentic, traditional English, timeless rural beauty, the great English countryside. And we don't have that with every destination and place and location in tourism in the UK. So we're really lucky to have it. Now, you don't have to just be in Bourton on the Water, Stow on the Wold, or in Castle Combe. You can be around the Cotswolds. You know, it doesn't have to be, oh, that's not the traditional Cotswolds. That's not just a honeypot location where many people go. That's even stronger messaging, you know. So if you're on, you know, you're further afield, but you still are in the Cotswolds or near the Cotswolds, then, you know, make sure you're using that brand, because it offers so much to a visitor. It sends a really clear and focused message about your product. So don't not use it, because it is such a good leverage to actually convince people to come and stay and visit. So using that Cotswold brand, there's a story, there's a context that visitors can actually connect with. So often they'll see the Cotswolds on television, different programs like Father Brown, and different films and different things like that. And they'll have an imagination of it if they've not been before, but they'll actually think about the countryside, the nature, the heritage, those different things, a place of calm and relaxation as well. So within your different marketing and your websites and things like that, you want to show the place in the landscape as well, in the town, in the village, in the countryside, etc. You want to give some of that wider exposure of the Cotswolds as well. So they're coming to visit you, but actually they're coming to visit the destination as well. So using imagery and in your context as well, talk about what else goes on around your part of the Cotswolds and further afield as well. So again, going back to being authentic as well, it's about reflecting that brand. You know, it's obviously welcoming, but you're offering a good quality or high quality product. You're very genuine, you're authentic to that Cotswolds brand as well. And also, you know, to collaborate, and something that Sally and we talk about often in these sessions is working in partnership. Collaboration is so important in tourism and hospitality. You know, you're not there to compete, you're there to work together. So if there's businesses near you or in your area, you know, that do something similar or can add value to what you offer, then, you know, speak to them, work with CotswoldsPlus, and actually develop different products as well. So actually having that strong shared identity amongst many different businesses gives you build that visitor trust as well, and people more likely to come back and return back to the Cotswolds as well. So that brand belongs to us all basically, and you know, you're in the Cotswolds, let's use it, celebrate it, and make the most of it as well. So moving on to how we provide that offer. So we're talking about show and don't tell. So it's that kind of family friendly focus. This is one of our audiences we've highlighted. As I say, we've got a webinar focused on the family audience as well. Sean, do you want to just pop in just here, just kind of build us a bit more about providing that offer for the family friendly market?
In terms of showing examples, yeah. So absolutely. So it's understanding the needs of your audience, in this case families, you know, logistical issues, you know, from, again, drawing on my work from the early days of, where a key target audience for Tesco's were young families, particularly in the non-food areas of Tesco, clothing, toys and hardware. And it was really understanding that young families are really, really time poor. They have strains on finances as well. So they you know, things are shifting around, a very significant life stage. So the more you can understand their needs, the practical, the logistical, often, you know, if people are coming from the UK and increasingly Northern Europe, they'll be driving as well. It's just understanding those behaviours. I think most of you who know Europeans, they tend to drive everywhere with their families on holiday, from one side of Europe to the other. So a lot of dynamics going on here, and then proving how you've understood that and how you've aligned with that audience's needs.
Yeah, and it's the same for as we move on to looking at our walkers and our cyclists and our outdoor. Again, it's that kind of proving, as we say, giving people that information that we do this, we offer this, we've got evidence that we do this as well. So they're going to trust you. They're going to, you've added value to that offer as well. So, and this works across the different markets, the different audiences as well. So it's kind of show, don't tell.
Yes. And we now spend a little bit of time about the very vast world of social media. So I'm not sure when social media started, possibly 1998, so a lot longer than perhaps some of us realise. It's become a very complicated environment. It's not without its challenges and pitfalls, but it's still potentially where your potential customers are most likely to see you, and you're most likely to build relationships and engage with your audience. There are a vast amount of platforms. Some you will know, some you may not know. TikTok, which is, I guess I'd still call an emerging platform, but probably has emerged now. Increasingly, the age profile on that is a lot older than people think it is. And indeed, the audience member who mentioned about America earlier, the age profile of TikTok users is significantly older in the United States. So actually would be a really good platform to use. So understanding the platforms and their dynamics is a really good place to start. For those of you who use AI platforms like ChatGPT, it's a great way for ChatGPT to give you a strategy for your business. So just throw it all in there, describe your business, what your objectives are, let Chat create a mini strategy for you with all the caveats that, you need to check things that AI produces. But in a way, the advance of AI is now making this complicated landscape easier to navigate by narrowing down the choices that you make. But clearly, Instagram still is there in terms of presenting your brand in a emotive, image-led way, really there for inspiration, storytelling, and brand building. And you can also consider platforms like LinkedIn, because actually, depending on your audience, maybe you've got a business that targets team away days, or maybe you want to develop business partnerships. It's, you can think of platforms other than just Instagram and Facebook. So I think there's a few more slides, Chris, on social media. So if we just, so a theme that's throughout this 90-minute session we have with you is content and messaging that connects. So again, all the dynamics we talked about earlier about understanding your audience and connecting are even more important within social media content creation. And let's move on. And build and nurture followers. In the early days of social media, everyone was obsessed with how many followers they had. In some ways, it's less important now. The two metrics you really need to worry about are reach and engagement. How many people saw the post and how engaged with your audience. And I would argue actually reach, as long as it's targeted, is sometimes more important than engagement. Sometimes people are obsessed with engagement, how many likes and comments they get. Great. But actually, if you put a picture of a fluffy kitten held by a fire officer, you're likely to get loads of engagement and loads of likes, but it's absolutely nothing to do with your business and brand. So don't be seduced to think that it's only likes and engagement that matter. It's actually reach and reaching your audience. And you can measure those fairly simply on any social media platform. As I said, followers is a little bit of a vanity metric. I don't advise our clients, I would have emphasized, to worry too much about follower numbers. However, if people do go to your Instagram account and you have 7 followers, they're probably going to make a bit of a judgment about who you are and what you do. So we can't ignore it. But you can, use tricks to build and nurture your following. And I think we'll share some of those in the follow-up sessions that are more specific to the audience. Manage your community. Community management is essentially just responding and engaging with people, stimulating people to get engaged. We talked about engagement, but you can stimulate the conversations, simple things from creating polls or asking questions, but do make sure messages are followed up, just like on review platforms. If people post a comment and maybe it was a negative one, that you show someone's cared, to nurture the community. If you're a sort of brand that lends itself to a community-based approach, then this is really, really important to you. Some businesses lend themselves to building community more than others. I think others call it a community when they're just really customers. But I think in your world, community can mean a lot, particularly when things are centered around activities, because your audience are going to have very similar likes and needs. The community.
John,
Yeah.
Just to add to that as well, because I know working with many businesses that social media can be quite overwhelming, quite stressful, and as we were saying throughout the session today, we're all very busy, but sometimes less is more as well. And actually, as it said on one of the slides back then, you don't have to do all the platforms. There's many more than what we just saw on the screen there as well. You don't have to be doing all of them, and there are ways you can connect as well, so you can be sharing through one platform to another. But that's okay. Less is more. You don't need to be posting twice a day, every day. Sometimes let that piece of content that you've done, that piece of social media, do its work and have that. But as Sean's been kind of saying, have a plan that enables you to deliver some content online on social media. But again, you don't have to be overwhelmed with it. I just thought I'd mention that there.
Yeah, good. And actually, you reminded me one tip, which isn't, I don't think, in here, is I see lots of businesses not reuse content enough. They almost forget you can reuse it, because the chance of that same group of people seeing it, especially on organic posts, ones you don't pay for, is actually quite small. And hey, what, even if they do, if you think of TV advertising, you'll probably see the same TV advert, 5 or 6 times in a week sometimes. So don't be afraid to do that. And of course, you can just tweak the copy a bit, maybe play around with it a bit. But reusing content is a really good way of maximizing the time you invest into social media. And generally, most businesses don't reuse content enough. Yeah, measure what matters. As I said earlier, lots, if any of you have ever dived into analytic tools in social media, you'll probably see it's changed every time you go and have a look at it. So it can be very overwhelming. In broad speaking terms, measure reach and slightly lesser extent engagement. That's really what is going to tell you, is this piece of content connecting with the audience that you intend it to.
So looking at all the different messages, we've been trying to focus you all on delivering one message, but many various versions of that as well. So you can speak differently to audiences in different ways at different times as well. So we've put this, you kind of audiences there into the house. It's okay to target more than just one. But don't do it just not all at once, basically. So if you're going to target, okay, we're going to spend, the next month, really focusing on walkers. And that's our campaign. That's our strategy to kind of focus on that. We're going to do a big kind of campaign on social media, making sure our imagery and our content on our website is really focused on that. There is a, Walkers Are Welcome festival nearby. Really focused on that. So don't get your messages confused and conflicting. But it is, what we're trying to say is, it's okay to focus on different audiences at different times as well. And just think about those audiences as rooms in that digital house as well. So you're kind of accessing and moving around that house at different times of the year, different times of the season as well, thinking ahead and actually working around that. You might not have as many rooms in your house, it might be a smaller house, but actually think about it in that kind of way. It can really help. So we've got some examples now of those targeted messaging, actually reaching those different audiences in different ways. This is how we would like you to do it and how you could do it. So given that, first of all, looking at the homepage, so you want to give a really welcoming, keep talking about being welcome, an inclusive message that speaks to everyone. So you don't want to make it too niche, which kind of conflicts what we were saying earlier on about, not targeting everyone, but actually you want to be quite broad. You're not just saying hello, Americans, welcome. It's a bit more fluid than that, but your goal is to spark that interest, to set the tone and show visitors again that you understand them, and you've got something that you think they want, or that they want as well. So think about your messaging, discover the Cotswolds, escape to the countryside. All these different things are really good for your search engine optimization as well. What's going to help your Google ranking, but also it's kind of what your visitor is going to be looking, depending on the target audience that you're looking at as well. So if we focus on, having a page that's actually focused on family breaks, for example. So you've got a big, nice campaign on your home page. It talks to families and people are looking for these types of stays and visits. And then you have a page that's really detailed and really focused. So you're using the right imagery in the right places. You're targeting the different segmentations of families, the parents with children. You want to emphasize on the different facilities, the activities, the amenities, all those different things, to show them that you've got, again, or you know where these things are that they need to enable them to have the experience that they're looking for, to enable them to book. So using those different language, we've got everything you need, peace of mind for parents, there's a safe play park nearby, all these kind of things like that. You need to kind of really speak to the audience that you are targeting. Sean, please come in if you want to add anything on any of these slides as we go through them. And it kind of works through all of the different segmentations that we've been highlighting. And again, I keep mentioning it, we will spend more time on all of these in our next sessions. But again, it's really speaking directly to that audience, the dog owners, not the dog, and actually making sure you've got everything catered for their needs. You want to show that, you want to be clear with that, and you want to speak directly to them. So it's that storytelling piece, case studies of people that have kind of stayed with you in the past or visited, had a fantastic experience, 5-star experience. My dog was really happy, all those kind of things, really important and crucial to that campaign. And being, consistent as well across your channels. So, we started at the beginning talking about the difference between marketing and advertising, and think about the different platforms that you have, whether it's on social media, your website, your digital displays, your physical displays. You might actually have signage and things like that. So think about your logo, think about the context of that. Think about how you communicate, how you speak to your visitors, to your potential customers, the type of language that you use. Is it quite chatty? Is it quite informal? Are you quite, a quality brand? Are you something you're trying to kind of more high end? So think about the audience and the language that you're speaking, the format, the design of that as well. So it shows you a little bit kind of on that brand identity, what the importance of that is. Sean, you've worked with many different brands, here and abroad. What takeaways do you think businesses should take from this particular part of the presentation on their brand identity?
The number one, that branding isn't just the logo and the color palette and the fonts you use, it's the whole DNA and behavior of your organization. So that's number one, and that, in a way, that slide illustrates that. Number two is then that means you can express yourselves as a personality. So what is that personality? And, you know, there can be there's multiple ways you can go, but being clear on that will then create something authentic and also distinct in the market. So often business can do the same thing. I've got a client actually based in Cirencester called Solo Coffee, which has got a very sort of upstarty brand positioning, a real, wants to disrupt the market. But essentially, it's liquid coffee in a carton. It's the same product as Nescafe do, but they've completely rebranded it in a different way to target a different audience. The branding can really differentiate you in a crowded market. And, one of the, I guess, the stories we often give people is if you imagine that British Airways and Virgin were at a party, British Airways would probably talk about work all night and Virgin would try and chat you up. Again, they're both airlines, but they express themselves in completely different ways. And I think it's a really good example of the power of branding and what it can do. So be playful, enjoy it, and also increasingly be authentic and less corporate. I think the more authentic you are, the more honest you are, the less corporate you are, the more resonance and connection you're going to make with your audience.
Yeah, and it goes back to that first part of the workshop, isn't it? Know your audience, know who you're trying to communicate, and that brand identity will work towards them. We've got some examples we wanted to show you as well. Some of these you might have seen if you've joined me on other presentations, but this one particular, Bike and Boot Hotel, they got two accommodation, one in the Peak District, and the first one was in Scarborough. Really a business that understands their audience, as it says in their brand, Bike and Boot. They're all about walkers, cyclists, and dog walkers, but they understand. They're not exclusive. And I've stayed at the accommodation as pictured here in the Peak District when I've gone for work, but they've got everything you need. If you are a cyclist or walker, you have got everything from bike storage, boot washing areas and stuff like that. So they've got the facilities, but they communicate and market that really well to those various audiences. So they've got their brand is carried throughout, their logo, their name, their website, their socials, but when you go to stay, you got the delivery of the service and meeting the needs of all the customers as well. So if you haven't checked it out, check out bikeandboot.com. If you are definitely looking to attract more active travellers to your organisation, there's lots of takeaways that they do that might help you. And we've got a few others across the country as well. This is basically a glamping site in Wales, over the border in the Wye Valley. So this is a kind of high-end sustainable tourism offer with eco luxury products. So again, their marketing, their branding, their website is another good example that we found that was really tapping into the social and sustainable tourism sector, which is a really big pull for many people now when they're coming to choose their experiences and accommodation, how green is their experience going to be as well. And then we've got some more kind of glamping opportunities there as well, looking at being more kind of sustainable and experience-led accommodation as well. So as I said, these slides will be shared so you can tap into this for more details as well. Sure.
Yeah, so after you've done all this stuff, what you're after is turning customers, guests, visitors into advocates. And, if you're not familiar with the term, pretty self-explanatory. But what you want is people who are going to speak positively about their brand and experience. And that goes back to possibly the oldest and most effective form of marketing communication there is, which is word of mouth. I think we mentioned that at the beginning. It's just word of mouth today is amplified on steroids with the use of social media and all the platforms that people can use to communicate. I'm sure any of you who are using Facebook groups will be familiar with, the way things spread like wildfire sometimes when someone's had a bad experience at a restaurant or a bar or something. So you are after turning all your customers into advocates for obvious reasons. There's nothing new about this. People had these conversations themselves, but it was very contained. Today, it's very different. And that has advantages, but it also obviously comes with challenges as well. Really, really, really important part of the process, and comes at the end of that slide we showed, where you're in now to the end of the experience, after care, after sales bit, and what happens next. So some marketing pitfalls. There are many, but trying to appeal to everyone. I think there are some brands out there that that's their mission. So famously, I think the Coke president said, in answer to who's your audience, it's anyone with a mouth. That's fine. They're Coca-Cola. For most businesses, though, it's about understanding your audience, understanding your niche, the role you play in their lives, and targeting to them. That's by far the best approach for almost all businesses. Just saying you're something rather than proving it, I think it's a good lesson for all of us as well in our personal lives. But I think as a business, absolutely, don't just tell people, show people. Not being transparent with pricing might give you some quick wins in the short term, but long term, it's not a great place to be. And no clear call to action, or CTAs as we call it in marketing, often overlooked and often forgotten. What is it you want someone to do? Is it a really clear CTA? Sign up for our email program and receive these benefits. That's the type of approach that you want to take, clear CTAs. And then some quick wins. Tell audiences who you are. Tell audiences where you are. Update images and copy to reflect your audience and the seasonality. So don't just leave it. A website is a living, breathing, evolving entity that you can use throughout the year, and indeed, on an ongoing basis. Add testimonials to key pages. Testimonials can be really, really powerful. My only watch out is make sure they sound authentic and believable. There is some skepticism around reviews and testimonials right now, so make sure that they are genuinely authentic. And this is a personal opinion, and Chris may differ on this. I sometimes think a little bit of realism in testimonial reviews can add to their believability. So, maybe people found the stairs difficult or something, then that actually could make the rest of the reviews more believable. Make sure all of your social media accounts, whatever ones you use, really have powerful, biogs in there. So that's just quickly and simply telling people that you're a X business in a Y location, and these are the reasons you're really special.
Sean, I'll just add on two points on reviews. I totally agree, having authentic reviews, really, and also how, as a business, you respond to negative reviews. In fact, how you respond to all reviews as well. That's often what people are looking at now, and we might all tap into the lowest ranking review just to see what happened, and it might have been a long time ago, but when you got a reply and an apology or acceptance of that issue, and you only see it's one or two, that can really just, people can read through that and understand that as well. And going back to the very first point, tell your audience where you are. This sometimes is so obvious, but so many websites and Facebook pages and Instagram profiles do not have the location of the business. So they would say the Red Lion. Or what Red Lion? There's lots of Red Lion pubs in the country. So actually having the Red Lion in blah 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 is really important. So just make sure when you're kind of doing your own audit of your online presence, etc., just make sure you've got your destination, your location, the name of your village, your town, what have you. Make sure it's in there. We're coming towards the end. We're going to be wrapping up very soon. If you've got any questions, do pop them into the chat and we will try and answer them. If not, we will pick up some of your questions in our follow-up sessions as well. But I want to touch on sustainability. It's a really important part of what we do here in the Cotswolds. So more and more we're seeing businesses, deliver on sustainability. Again, like social media, you cannot do everything. But if you're doing some changes, you're being more selective on what you buy, and the kind of the carbon footprint of what you are purchasing, etc. Making sure that you're communicating that to your potential guests and your guests is really important. So we've got two terms, greenwashing and green hushing. Greenwashing is when companies like big cruise ships are, kind of removing plastic straws, but they're still polluting all of our oceans. So we don't want to be doing the greenwashing. We want to make sure we're not also doing the green hushing, where we're not telling potential customers about the changes that we're making, whether they're small, medium, or big. We need to make sure that we're actually communicating that back to our potential customers as well. So we are about to wrap up now, as it's almost 11:30. We have 4 more sessions for you, because this is just kind of the introduction, but we're going to spend more time on the following audiences: the romantic break and couples market, the family audience travel market, walkers and cyclists and active travel users, and the dog-friendly market as well. They're all in the morning. They're all taking place in November, and no doubt Sally will be sharing details of those sessions with you. Sally, that brings us on to any questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, both, and for everybody for engaging with the chat. Basically, I've put the links in, and I will follow up with everybody as well on email, so that you've got all the details. I think there was one question that I think Kate came back with. On the sort of platforms, are we better to focus on one platform rather? This is your reviews. We've been getting great Google reviews, but our TripAdvisor is now out of date. So
I would say TripAdvisor and Google reviews are globally they're the biggest around. I would keep them both up to date, because you have different audiences and different markets accessing either both or one or the other. So try and get, and this is difficult to do with TripAdvisor, I know, but try and get that obtain that account on TripAdvisor, so you can update it and manage it. That will take time and probably pull a few hairs out, but it's worth doing.
Definitely. So we haven't actually got any other questions come in. Comments such as, yeah, lots to think about. And that's the whole idea of this, is actually we want to ensure that you as businesses do take some time to have a think about this, which is why the other sessions are very much targeted around the November period. And this is recorded, so we will send you the link once it's uploaded to the YouTube account as well. So Chris, over to you to finish.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we've got some homework for you to do, and this is just kind of continuing that audit of your digital presence and looking at making sure you're speaking to those relevant audiences. So first thing, to really assess what your audiences are and when you're talking to them at different points of the year as well, and then identify 2 changes to make before the next session. So 1 or 2 would be nice, and just think about what you might do and what you do. It would be great to hear some of the changes you might have done between now and the next session as well, and bring any further questions. Think about those questions ahead of the webinar as well. So there's a few next steps we would like you to think about, and we hope to see you all on our next sessions.
Brilliant. And we've finished dead on time, so congratulations. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thanks. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.